Welcome to another segment of KTV. We are so excited to be having this program where we can take a natural situation and give a biblical perspective on it. So we're so excited that you're here with us tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about God or money. Do we really have to make a choice? You know, here at the Valley we are always talking about the 7 systems, and so we have a bunch of believers tonight who's going to give a kingdom perspective and tell us what they think about it. Stay tuned.
Appreciate that, man. Christmas gift.
DSW?
No.
40% off.
No, Gucci.
His face changed. He was so serious. Like,
Welcome to our
Right,
kickback
yes.
session where we are talking about God and money. Or as we say today, God and get into the bag. Do we really have to choose? We are a group of millennials talking about God and money. So I am part of the system of family. And in the system of family, I believe that everybody has a family and everybody has a duty in family. And being that I'm in the system of family, it's our duty to facilitate change in family. It's so many broken homes. It's so many people in our families that's broken. So what I aim to do and what I aim and strive to do is to help broken families. See, I come from a single parent home, and I know the challenges of a single parent home. Now, I'm going to let Prophet James talk about the family system.
What you talking about, man?
I'm just saying. I mean, you know, you got a big family.
No, really. When I think about, so all the systems, when we look at all the systems, we're looking at business, we're looking at government, we're looking at family, we're looking at education, arts and entertainment. We're looking at, what's the other ones? I'm missing one of them.
Faith.
Media and faith.
Yeah.
When we look at these systems, we think about how we, like you stated, like how we operate in it. You got a passion for family. Each of us got some type of passion for some of these systems or one of these systems. We got a passion that falls into one of these systems, that direct us into one of these systems. And I know for me personally, over my just years in life, I've navigated throughout different systems. So at a point in my life when I wanted to be a rapper,
for real.
produced a couple CDs, got a couple tracks out there, but my focus was arts and entertainment. So then, once my music career didn't jump off the ground like I wanted it to, I had to find some other things to get into, and that's when I kind of found the passion for a business. So now I function on the system of business. At one point in my life, I was even interning for Denny Davis. So then at that point, I was focusing on operating in the system of government. So I think throughout our lives, we can function and have some type of facet of interaction on each of the systems, but sometimes you have to try to identify which system you truly are passionate about so that you can really focus in and key in. Because for us, in our generation, we are multitaskers. So we like to focus on a lot of different things. We do a lot of different stuff. And y'all don't agree? Y'all agree? What y'all think? But I think we focus on a lot of different things, and oftentimes that can kind of distract us on the primary things that we should be focusing on.
I mean, I totally agree because I'm one of those people that multitask, and I'm good in a lot of different areas, but my passion brings me back to a few areas. So even though I might be good in media, I might be good with computers and drawing, or I might be good with teaching, but faith is one of the bigger things that I'm really passionate about, and it really it fuels my whole existence, is my faith.
Gotcha. What about you, E? What you passionate about?
I'm passionate about a lot of things in life, but I'm a natural artist. I love to draw, do interior design also, but God has me in business, and it's to encourage people to be entrepreneurs. God did not put us on this earth to slave or, make money for corporations. He wants us to make money for ourselves and for his kingdom. So, piggyback what you said, we are involved in different systems, and I do have a heart for the youth and family also, but my main system is definitely business. What about you, John?
In terms of like what I'm passionate about most.
Passionate about them?
Definitely education, and as a leader within the system of education, I would say I really discovered my passion. I was blessed to discover my passion for education early. I would say when I was in undergrad is when I really discovered like this is like the path for me. And I say that because my family played a tremendous part in the value of education that I have today. And then when I was able to get to higher education, I started to see how much of a privilege that was. And then I started to see how my own passion for education started to get me involved as a mentor on campus, both in the campus community and the surrounding community. And then as I started to see my gifts working with young people, I started, like, my spirit started to open up more to being in that capacity. And then learning more through my undergraduate major of sociology, I learned how powerful the tool of education is. So I really wanted to assist others with learning that, knowing it, and utilizing it. So I was blessed to learn that early on.
So you like smart.
Right.
I enjoy
spitting
learning.
out degrees and everything.
Yeah, I enjoy learning. It's fun.
But for the common person that don't know this language that we're talking about, what are we talking about when we're talking about systems? Like, let's help people understand that.
Like I said, I think that, everybody operate in some capacity in a system. Like now when you're talking about social media, like you got a lot of people part of media now. Like a lot of people is doing editing videos, going viral and stuff like that. We now as millennials is getting into politics. So the system of government, like we getting into it in business. Oh man, it's been like an influx of millennials and beyond that's getting into business, like and entrepreneurship. Like what they had, the guy who, the young man who is rich now, he's younger than us. So that's what I think.
Yeah, and I think too, when we talk about the systems, we talk about something that's universal. So whenever you go anywhere in the world, like there's somebody's operating in media, somebody's operating in family, somebody's operating in business. Every category that you see somebody operating in, no matter what your profession is or whatever the case may be, it falls under one of these systems. So it kind of becomes a universal language that you can use, across the board with different people, whatever the case may be, even different nationalities, in just regards to what your profession is, and you're talking about those systems. So I think for us and our generation, it's good for us to continue that language. It's good for us to continue to identify that, even in helping, like, younger people, like saying what I want to be when I grow up. It'll be good to be able to direct them and say, okay, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to be, it falls in one of these 7 systems. So to be able to navigate them into that course. So, but when we talk about, and we open up, we said we were talking about God and money, and if you have to make a choice. Let's talk about how we have to navigate the course of being young family, men, heads of family, and having children, and just being able to provide for yourself. And in this society where we are finance driven and money driven, let's talk about how we keep our focus.
I think you always have to look at your why. Why are you doing something? What's motivating you? And if money is your only motivation, you're not going to do it for long. And you're not going to really be passionate about it. For me, in media, it was just something I happened to stumble upon. Something that piqued my interest. And I was just like, man, I could really make a difference doing this. And it doesn't have to be for clout or for fame. It could just be to empower someone else to chase their dreams and do what they need to do in their own personal life. So I think you really have to look at what your why is and why you're doing something versus, man, I got to have this bag. We all have bills, but when you truly have a passion and purpose for it, then the money will come.
Yeah. What about you, Christine?
Yeah, I believe that it's important to focus on the why, so you're not just out here doing anything. I think a lot of times we work jobs that aren't aligned with our gifts and our natural talents and purpose. And so then we have this divide of like, am I going to do something I'm passionate about, or am I going to do something for money? And so even for me, I'm trying to make the transition from a job to career. It's real easy to get a job, but to actually get in a career where you're making good money, but you're fulfilling what you were placed on this earth to do, and that's different for everybody. So for me, it's arts and entertainment. I'm an artist, I'm a singer, and I really want to help support others in that process. A lot of times you look at it as just an individual, but we really can't accomplish much by ourselves. We need a team, we need a community. So by connecting to other people in your system, in your purpose, with common interest, you can support each other, and someone can tell you about opportunities to network or to volunteer or this or that. So it's just really important we focus on the why, and that we surround ourselves with other people that are like-minded.
And I get what you said, Christine, but I think about, in this world that we live in, people are really money hungry. Even when we think about the word, the Bible says money answereth all things. So people don't want to hear, you got to do it for this purpose, you got to do it for this reason, you got to have a why. No, my kids got to eat. My mother been struggling her whole life, and I'm not, I'm going after this stuff to really get on this grind because I want to get the bag. Like people,
because it's like people like seeing you on social media now, so you seeing so many people getting to the bag,
right, exactly.
like every day, like maybe not want to
taking
understand
pictures with their money and everything,
taking pictures with their money and everything.
But a lot of times when you trying to get the bag, you take God out of your situation because you're using that bag to answer your questions. In faith, you're supposed to be depending upon God as your source and as your supply. So what happens when money takes the place of God?
But that's what we're talking about. We said, but can I do both? Can I have God and the money? Can I get the bag in? Because we got a tithe, right? I got to bring my 10% to the church.
You say something about abundance,
right?
Exactly.
But you got to understand, the money isn't the source. A lot of times we make money the source, so we can do it because we have the money. It can happen because we got the money, or we have a source to get the money, but we take God out of the place of being the source to bring the supply.
Yeah, I get that. That's just, I think it's with some people, right. But I get that point. I guess in this world, though, it's a challenge in regards to trying to keep that your focus. When you got the bills coming, when you got the responsibilities, your kids saying that they're hungry and everything, son, you're going to get fed, but trust that God is the source. Like, sometimes you got to make that real.
Right.
How do we make that real with one another when you're dealing with real situations?
And God wants us to prosper. It doesn't really have to be so separate. I definitely feel like you could have both. God is prosperous. He has everything. And if we do what we're truly called to do and just go all the way in, like whatever we need to get, if we need to get training, schooling, certification, networking, whatever it is, like we can actually prosper and do both. But when you just try to separate it for the money, that's not really going to get you there, I feel like.
That's a good point, though, what you're talking about with the training and stuff like that, because a lot of times it's just about fast money.
Yeah.
Right.
And I got to get this money quick. And it's not thinking about, like, I got to really go through this process for me to be able to make money. Like, people just want to get to the quick money.
And a lot of times it's that leap of faith. So, like, that training that you have to get, that extra class you have to do, some people may not have the money to do it, but they can find other resources that help them get that knowledge. Sometimes it might just be a conversation with someone who has that experience already, or look for an internship or something along those lines to help you get to the bag. It doesn't always come real quick, fast, in a hurry. It's just like, all right, what steps do I need to take? And forget it. I'm just going to jump out there and do it. And a lot of times people end up doing that, just trying to get the experience, and the bag just falls into their lap because they're out there hustling and grinding for it.
Yeah. And I guess just being real. So, like, my field, I'm in social services. Like, we all in different areas or whatever the case may be. But I started off in social services. When I think about my degree, I'm like, God, yeah, I want to help people. But then on the other end, it's like,
yeah. I know
you coming out with a degree making $30,000 a year. Like, it's being straight. It's that.
Right.
And I went to go get my master's degree. And I'm pretty much like telling my job I want to go get my master's degree, and they're like, we don't care. Like, it's not a requirement for you to work here. So I got 2 degrees, and they paying me between $30,000-$35,000 a year.
Yeah.
So it's like, God, yeah, I know this was my purpose to help people and everything, but the other side came up. Like, I got to make money. Like, I'm not going to be able to raise no family off no $30,000 a year. So even though I had that, that thought process, I still had to not make money in my pursuit.
Yeah.
And God gave me different avenues where I can take my skill set and make money off of that. but still the first focus was what's the purpose, like what's the goal, because that's what he finances. Like heaven supports the agenda of heaven.
Right.
He'll finance that.
You know, I think it's funny because it's like a lot of times we get pressure from outside people and outside sources. They look at us and they say, oh, you should be at a certain point in your life and you should make so much money by this point. And then we begin to judge ourselves based on what other people and our friends are making. And then it's like, well, what about our timing? What about our season? What about our progress? It's not always going to be the same for everybody. And what does the bag really look like? I mean, because sometimes our bags got holes in it. We got to spend a lot more to get there and use up more resources than other people do. And then some people are better at saving. Some people are better at applying it. But whatever we're going to do in life is going to take some sacrifice. It's going to take some understanding, and it's going to be how to apply, you know, the knowledge that we have to maintain what we have and to grow what we have.
But I mean, looking at us, they call us for the most part a microwave generation. Like, we don't like to wait.
But I don't believe that, man. I think we seem like we live in both places. Like, we have that structure, but then we still want what we want. You know what I mean? We do want it faster than the generation before us. Like, I think we live in both spaces to a degree. Like, in family, like, I believe that a lot of people, especially the way I came up, you live in a world of scarcity. So you only as good as what you know. Right, so I think that God and money should be synonymous, you know, kind of like business. Like, it should be synonymous. They should go like hand in hand. Like, I think we put God in a box. Like, this your area, this is my area, and I'll reach for you when I can. But I think it should be synonymous. I mean, what y'all think? I think it should be a balance, really.
Yeah, balance of both.
Yeah, that's good.
But we not gonna be that generation though that work 40 years on a job though either.
No.
And to kind of add to the benefit of our generation is that we understand the longhand and we know how to do the shorthand too, like how to do it.
That's a good point.
So I realized
that's a better way to put it.
Yeah, like I realized like so when I first started in education, I was 24 and my students were 18. So I was in there. I was 6 years older than them. So I was able to speak to what we were going through as a generation. But now I'm trained in Generation Z, and their values are different than ours, but we know how to speak to them. So we are in a very unique position in our generation to know how our ancestors, forefathers, our parents, the previous generations did it, know the value of hard work, but we just got to show it. And I would say as a whole, we're not showing it as well. Because,
that we understand the value.
Yeah,
hard work.
like what, for example, like when we talked about on social media and they see all of these things on social media, you're seeing what people want you to see. You're not seeing the process to get there.
Yeah.
So like me as an educator, it's tough for me to get young people to understand what an investment is. It's not just money. It's a sacrifice at this time for something later. And then going along with that word sacrifice, that's like love for what you're doing. So that's how I tie it into their purpose. I always it's hard teaching them that because it's not always tangible and you're not going to get an instant tangible result from applying that information. But it's very beneficial. And when I explain to them like your gifts will make room for you and place you before great men, what that means is the more you understand what you're created to do and you start to see your gifts that are associated with that, it's going to provide you with a living to be comfortable, and it's going to put you before people that's going to open even more doors for you. I've seen it done in my students' lives. Like some of my alumni students that come back talk about these small little opportunities that they had when they did pursue something they were passionate about, and then boom, this great opportunity comes from it. So just getting more young people to talk about those type of things is very impactful for this younger generation that's coming behind us. And I think we play a critical role in that. Like, we have to be honest though and show them like it's more to it. And that is worth it. It does pay off. But we have to show them that full.
Yeah, but I'm hurting right now though.
Outside. That's
I'm
true.
hurting right now though.
Yeah, and that's why I say we don't like to wait. Because that's where it comes in there.
You got to show people your successes and your failures.
That's
I
it.
mean, because people will always look at your success. They see that.
So if I go to your social media page right now, are you showing people your successes and your failures?
Nope.
Nope. Because it's a highlight reel. It's a highlight reel. It's a highlight
Sometimes
reel.
it depends on what I put
And I'm
out.
not saying you're supposed to share that information with just everybody, but I'm
But I
saying
control my narrative.
you do.
That I control my story.
And that's been the problem because we do control it. And
Right.
we only show people the positive side of the
Right.
narrative.
No one sees the hardship. No one sees the struggle. And it's in this day and age, it's just like, all right, I got this bag. This is how I did it. But they don't really truly show you how they
What was
did
the
it.
process?
It's just the highlights.
You know,
Until we're really honest and say, okay, I had my ups and downs. I started this business. It failed. I did this job. I got fired. Whatever that case may be, until we're really honest about it, it's just a highlight reel at the end of the day.
It's like, it's just like what we deal with faith. We deal with God. We always talk about, oh, God blessed me with this. God gave me this. God did this. God did that. But you never talk about the fact that, God told me to do something, I messed up and I didn't do it.
And I guess I'm thinking about us though. Like
Right.
we say you never do this, you never do that, but how often do we do that? And and I guess you bringing up a good point though, because it's like we should be doing that.
But
we should do that more.
Me personally, I'm trying to work on that. That's what I'm
and
saying.
we all should be.
Right. I'm personally taking that time to actually work on that, to be a little bit more transparent with where I'm at with my faith walk.
Because I think we do people a disservice because we
Right.
do show them success. So now that's what they want.
Right.
That's the part that they want.
That's
but we
right.
didn't show them the process of how we needed God to
Yeah.
get to the success.
And those failures are how we get there. Even as an artist, both up here, it's like you have your final product, your final painting, but like what it took to get there. For me, I know I want to put out this song, but what it takes to get there. There's so many steps. You're working a job so you can invest to get to the career. And so many millennials and just I'm sure many others have so many jobs. How many people are like driving Uber on the side or like
Yeah.
babysitting or
All the side
whatever.
hustles.
Like there's so many side hustles. I feel like we're really good at that. But we really, what you talked about with investment and social media, I think that a lot of times people are seeing the end result. They're seeing people get their success, and they're not seeing what it takes to get there. And I think that it'll be important for us to show that because people get discouraged.
Y'all got to be honest though. And now in social media now, what we watching, a lot of it is crying wolf. Like you like
Right.
you get laughed at for showing that vulnerability and stuff like
Feel
that.
like you
So-
want attention.
yeah, like you want
You
attention. Like
thirsty, you thirst
my
trapping.
attention was good though. You know what I'm saying? Then
I think there's a way to do it though.
GoFundMe goes up.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
GoFundMe goes up.
So it's like, I feel sorry for this
So
person.
you still going after that bag?
I'm trying.
Right, you was
Yeah,
struggling to get some money. But I think what Christine was just saying is powerful. Like you try to tell people you do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
And whatever that is. Like when I was starting my business, like I said, I would work my 9 to 5, come home, and then work my second 9 to 5 because I had to. And I use the analogy always like it was a baby, and I had to take care of my baby, raise my baby until my baby could take care of me. Like, but you had to put in that work. I had to put in that grind. But I'm guilty of it too because I talk about my success, but not necessarily get a picture of. I lost a couple contracts.
Right.
Like it wasn't just always I got these contracts and I kept these contracts. I lost some too. So it's both. It's two sides to the story.
That's what I'm saying. Because it's like in family, like I didn't show like, hey, my wife is having an issue with me being up late, or I got to work a little later. Like that's the part that I didn't really show, but that was real in the business.
I think it's kind of interesting why we do these things. Like on social media, we're trying to get opportunities. So we're trying to show that we're above where we are
I'm trying to get
because,
likes.
we're trying to get likes.
Likes bring opportunity
Which
though.
could lead to something else. You're trying to get noticed. So you're trying to show like all the great things that are going on. But when we show the struggle and show how we get there, then we can build this more like honest platform and really engage with people in a real way that can help them. And I feel like then the followers or the people that are interested, they'll be more invested in us because we have a real story. So many like artists are just, it's about like what's on their Instagram, like how they're being real, like how they're being open. Like that's kind of what's selling instead of trying to create this, perfect picture. just being real, I feel like is a little more appealing right now.
And I think that's real good, because I think it ties into what Jonathan was saying about how he encouraged the students, and even having the students come back and talk about the impact. Like, it was about the impact, and how our focus should be on the impact that we're able to make through our giftings, the impact that we're able to make through our systems that we operate in. And, you know, to tie it into what you were saying, that what is your real story? Because like you saying, people want to hear the real story. And my real story isn't that I did this and I was successful. My real story was I worked hard. I needed God. I needed him to direct me. I needed him to guide me, because most of the time, I know for me personally, I was going down a path that nobody in my family had ever been down. So I didn't have no template. I didn't have no direction in regards to, okay, just take this step, or even mentors around me. I had to sit with God. I needed God, because I didn't know how to navigate this course myself. So I think that's real in regards to saying, okay, let's share our real story, as opposed to just saying I'm a successful business owner. People are attracted to that, and we may be doing, again, people a disservice by talking about the success, and now people want the success, as opposed to telling them that, you know how I got this success is I depended on God.
That's key, though, because if you only talk about the success and people have failures, they fall into depression. Then they're like, why not me? Suicide. So that's a whole other thing that we have to look at, and why God is so important in what we're doing, and making sure that we're letting people know it's not just in my own strength that I'm doing this, but I have help along the way.
Yeah, because you can become an emotional mess.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the bigger thing is when you're showing your authentic self, you're showing God's capabilities inside of our lives. You know, God can do so much and take you to places that you would never go, that you could never get to on your own. But when you just show that, hey, I started low and I rose up, you can say, this is my life. It's a testimony to God. You know, it's a testimony to God's goodness. It shares your faith with others based by, you know, you are your greatest testimony, and you share your faith with others based on living his goodness out in front of their eyes.
But y'all got to be honest though, like when y'all talking about all of this stuff, like, you don't get to this place of vulnerability or showing people, like, you got to have that mindset and that epiphany from that point to say, I have a responsibility to everybody else. You look at all of the greats or the people who above us or is more successful than us, they didn't start at follower one, I got a responsibility. They started, it was me, I'm doing this, I'm posting this, I'm doing this. It didn't get till when it was 500,000 followers that, oh, I have responsibility to invoke my faith on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. But I think for us, I think that the world may not have to know my story, but somebody does.
Right.
I think that's the practicality of it, because it's like, I don't have to go on Facebook and just share everything.
Sure.
But when that person does come to my life, and I know they're there because they need a deposit, I'm not going to send them off by just saying, work hard and you're going to be successful.
Right.
On the real.
Like, it's real battles out here. Like, I had to go into spirit. God revealed to me at times where I was going into territory that I had never been in before, and he said it has to be preceded with prayer. Like, I had to go into spiritual warfare before I entered in certain levels of even where I'm at in business now, but I had to proceed it through spiritual warfare.
Sure.
So, going after the bag, you ain't going to know how to navigate spiritual warfare without doing it through God.
So do we got to have a balance, or it's just, it got to be synonymous though?
Yeah, I mean, it's a balance, because, like we say, money answereth all things. Like, you need it. But it also says the love of money is the root of all evil, which people misquote all the time. But the love of money is the root of all evil. So we go after it. We know we need it, but our love should be after the Father. And on the other side of that is wealth and riches. Like, he going to provide for us. And that's what he say, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Like, that's one of my favorite passages, because all he's asking us to do is to seek ye first the kingdom. And the addition principle is automatically applied to our life. So the wealth and riches come.
And to add to that, I always share my story with my students, like when they're trying to figure out what they want to do with their futures and what career fields they want to go into. I always share with them, it was God that showed me this. Like, I would not have chose this for myself.
Exactly.
Like, I was an architecture major at first. Like, but the Lord showed me it was other ways. My desire was to beautify the city, the residents, the different communities in Chicago.
You was trying to be a part of justification.
No.
Yeah.
Just beautiful. You know, it could have been
Affordable, beautiful housing.
city-owned gardens and things of that nature. I just wanted to beautify the neighborhoods and give people more pride in their neighborhoods. That's what I was looking at from that perspective. But once I got to college and learned more about that major and started seeing my impact in other areas and where the Lord started leading me, like doors literally started opening for me. And that's what I always told my students. Like, you gotta try it. Like, I definitely don't force God on them. I tell them to seek in your heart, like, see what your heart is telling you. And then as you start to follow your heart and your passions, look at what lined up for you and what things were brought your way that you wouldn't have got on your own. And that's how I discovered it. But going back to that vulnerability piece you talked about, Kevin, you gotta be vulnerable. And our generation is really not big on being that open. And definitely Generation Z is tough getting to their core, but they want it. Like, when you show your vulnerability with them, I always start with who I am first and why I'm here and what purpose I serve in your life. So I always start with an open heart with them, and they respect it. The respect isn't always demonstrative, so to say,
Because people connect with people.
They definitely do. And
And
then later
stories.
on, when they
Yeah.
get treated another way by some other adult and they see the way I respected them, then that relationship becomes stronger regardless of how it may have started. But it is a vulnerability piece, but that again goes to that open heart, and you got to try it. Like, I went back to my old high school when I first decided to pursue a master's in education, and one of my previous teachers told me there's no money in education. I'm like, I never said I was doing this for the money, like, but you know, I know what I'm called and created to do, so I had to go get that extra level to be able to go more in depth at what I wanted to learn and how I wanted to specifically utilize my gifts.
But that's a real point there, because most of the time when we talk about, I'm going to college, I started off in computer science. So to go from computer science, where you're making almost $90,000+ a year, to social services, it was like, okay, God, I'm following you and I want to do my purpose and all that type of stuff. But a lot of times when people graduate out of high school and they tell you what they want to do in college, 9 times out of 10, most people say, "Oh, you're not gonna make no money doing that," or "Yeah, that is the field that you're gonna make money doing. Go be a doctor because you'll make money doing that." So a lot of times, like for people like us that know you need God, we have to make sure in those conversations and navigating younger people courses, it's like, no, don't do it because of money. The money will come. Like, you want to be fulfilled in life. You don't want to just have money. You want to be fulfilled. So pursue that thing that you know that you called to do or you had a desire to do, and not focus so much on this not the field that's going to give me a lot of money.
You know, people get messed up with that whole this is going to pay me money, this is not. Because right now, you know, the whole being a lawyer isn't paying money anymore. You know, the job market has totally changed. And things go through, it goes through seasons. You know, right now the season is social media that's paying money. That's the reason why everybody's going after it. They're going real hard for it.
Social work ain't never been a season.
It has
though.
never been a season. I mean, when I was in school, social work, they was like, you're going to come out making $18,000 with a bachelor's degree after you spent $130,000.
Congratulations.
So, I mean, that was a no for me. That was a no. But at the same standpoint, like, you know, people have to have a realistic expectation is that, you know, what you may want to do or what may be the trend isn't really going to
Sustain you?
it may not sustain you and it may not pay off in the end.
Yeah, but my boy got all the Gucci belts.
You know what? You can have all the
Check
Gucci
his
belts
status. They
that you
probably
want.
not real.
But what happens when your money runs out? You're going to just have Gucci belts.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, our main point is just focusing on the fact that you can have both.
Yeah.
You can, but the focus should always be God first. Because when money run out, you're going to run to God.
Yep.
You're going to need him.
Right.
Go be
But-
quiet.
Exactly.
real.
But it's better to be in a position where you already have him and he's guiding you through the wealth and the riches. So, you know, I think about one of the other things, multiple streams. Like that's major now, especially with like the expenses and how inflation, everything is going up. It's like they tell you your minimum wage is going up, but then the cost of living go up. So it really offsets that increase that you have. So in like this day and age, we gotta have like multiple streams. Like it's not an option. So
That's true. I mean, to go back to what you said about, I think you said about putting God in a box. Being an entrepreneur, you can't put God in a box. So God gives us all ideas and talents and dreams or whatever. So the whole thing is, let's say, you know, of course, I'm an artist. You do music, and you were social, right? Well, let's just say God has something else that He wants to broaden your horizon with. Are you going to just continue to do that, or are you going to pursue something else? Because Holy Spirit's going to give it to you. The question is, are you going to act on it? Are you going to move on it? Are you going to just sit still on it? So, like in my instance, I knew I was an artist. You know, my mother told me when I was like 2 years old, I was drawing. So, going through high school, I drew, and going to college, I drew. Well, in college, I wanted to be an interior designer, and I also wanted to design bridges and construction, just like you know. But I knew that art was my path. But as I was going, God was like, well, with art, you can do portraits, you can do murals, you can, you know, design homes. That's art. Also, you know, I did pursue my interior design degree. And with that, I was able to combine my art and stage homes also.
So do you find the challenge with having all them different options? You can get the bag for painting, you can get the bag for building houses. Do you find it a challenge though, like to keep the focus on God? Right.
All right, let me put it like this. You can get a bag, but is that bag good for you? Is that bag of God, or is that bag of the
Can I get the bag and I pray over the bag?
You can pray over the bag, but the question is, are you listening to the bag God's telling you to get? Because I chased some bags that I wasn't supposed to get. Somebody came after me with thousands of dollars, be like, here it is. And of course, you being an entrepreneur, you hungry. You know what I'm saying? You got to grind, because I'm not getting that. You know, I think in the world, we're so used to getting that check consistently every 2 weeks. We dependent on that. So as an entrepreneur, you can't depend on that. You have to go out there and you have to really persuade a person, especially being an artist, because you don't need art. This is a luxury of what I do. Yeah. So that's why God gave me the gift of entrepreneurship to give to other people. You know, people have some things that people need, like in your case, but people don't need art. You need an artist to develop things, but you don't need art on your wall. That's not a necessity. So I have to try to persuade people, like, yes, pursue what God has given you. But like I said, with the good and the bad bag, I can pursue a bad bag and gets me in trouble. Yeah, the money might be good, but then what are the consequences of me taking that?
It could cost you.
It can cost me, and it has cost me.
It could delay you, for real.
And I'm not afraid to tell people, I've lost homes, I've lost condos, apartments, trying to do this.
You better share that story.
I share my story because I made those moves. And we have to realize a lot of things that we go through is you have to examine yourself. We can't be mad at God, and we can't blame the devil for it. A lot of things that we go through that are bad are something that we put on ourselves.
It's our free will.
Made the choice.
It was your choice and not God's.
Right.
So I think we had a good discussion. I think we know the point that we're trying to make, and we discuss it here, but we want you to know that the point is you need to go after God. You need to pursue God. And pursuing the money, we can have both. We open up with that question, can you have both? Is it okay to have both? Yes, it's okay to have both. But you don't want money without God. But I'm telling you, life with God and without money, that's still an experience that I wouldn't trade in for the world. But God will give you the resources. He's just the source, and then He'll bring other resources into your life. I'm telling you, if you focus on what system you call to, if it's media, business, whatever the case may be, figure out what you're supposed to do in that system, and I promise you, the resources will come. The money will come. But never make it your focus. Always keep that focus on God. We appreciate y'all joining in on our kickback session. Until the next time, blessings. Hey, you can get God and the bag at the same time.
Did you agree with any of those perspectives that was given tonight? We hope that you are going to continue to engage with us, because we would like to hear what your perspective is. There's so many thoughts about Christians and believers and money and God and what realm we should be living in. But here at the Valley, we always believe that Jesus wants us to not only be prosperous but influencers of the 7 systems. So are you an influencer over the 7 systems? Let us know. Until the next KTV segment, we'll see you later.